All right, stop me if you heard this one. Stan Laurel once said, all comedians steal from all comedians. If you waste enough time looking into it, you might be surprised to learn that it's pretty much a tradition over the years. Milton Berle was infamously known as the thief of bad gags. Robin Williams and Carlos Mencia were repeatedly accused of stealing jokes. Dennis Leary got so good at performing material written by other people that he turned it into a successful acting career. Some comedians, even legends like Woody Allen and Ricky Gervais, have also admitted to stealing jokes. That makes it all the more confusing when the people collectively known as the internet decide to shame someone like Amy Schumer or Trevor Noah for allegedly stealing jokes, while a long list of others go seemingly unnoticed. Whether Amy or Trevor's jokes fall into the category of parallel thought or intentional plagiarism is really up for debate. But one thing's for sure, they're in good company. If you're part of the camp that believes this, we've got a show for you tonight. We're going to be discussing some serious comedy heavyweights who have been accused of stealing jokes. And we're also going to talk about how some comedy lightweights, like the three guys sitting at this table, are doing the exact same thing. Now, I have to make a full confession right now. This entire intro was lifted from an article from vulture.com. So, Maestro, please do me a favor and hit your original music.
Welcome back to Needless to Say. I'm Dave. I'm here with Craig and Brad, and you're listening to three very definitive reasons why the Avengers should have let Thanos snap everybody away.
Wow. One got snapped.
It was a big snap.
I was going to say that was a full thumb.
That was a clap.
Yeah. I love that lead-in. It didn't sound rehearsed at all.
No. What do you mean?
By George, Brad.
Yeah. So, Craig, how was your week, my friend?
Same as usual. Don't want to go into had a better week than last. Wasn't the worst week, wasn't the best week, but whatever. Same old, same old. One of the things I wanted to talk about this week was Kit Harington's balls.
Is that what's on Mike's face now?
I was thinking about it. I was thinking about my week at work. You know, always shit happens to me in my weeks at work, right?
Yeah.
And I started laughing because we've been on this Game of Thrones kick, right? And I was all fired up this week. This episode was fucking awesome again.
Yep.
They're doing it right. And I read an article about the filming of the first episode when they flew on the dragon, when
Right.
Kit Harington first flew on the dragons. He injured his right testicle bad. It got stuck in the fucking thing that he was sitting on to film.
I saw this, yeah.
But the thing that made this made me think, my work week was never this bad. You know, as much as you say, hey, he's making $1 billion and this and that, and he's just an actor. His nut was stuck in a thing, and he said, this is the best line ever. He said, all I remember was thinking, this is how it's going to end. Strapped to a mechanical bull, getting swung around by my testicles.
One benefit Kit Harington has is the money.
Yeah.
Okay, but one benefit you've got is that if you decide to trap your nuts between two pieces of floorboard, the internet is not talking about it.
No.
As much as I'd like to think the show has that kind of reach, where I'm like, did you hear what happened to Craig? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I would love that. Nail gun. Who knew?
We'll make sure it gets onto the internet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we would do our absolute best. Kind of like what happened to Mike's face today.
Yeah.
That's going to make it to our page sooner rather than later.
Oh, yeah.
Mike decided, and by the way, we should say this. Happy birthday, Mike.
Happy birthday, Mike.
Yeah, we'd love to celebrate him with him, but the fucker ain't here.
Yeah.
Because he decided to go, at 48 years old, decided to go put a bone in his nose today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is better than across his chin like most other weekends, so whatever. Happy birthday, kid. Love you.
Yeah.
So So I'm sorry, your week was?
No, so I mean that was it. It was quick. I'm not gonna get into it. There was nothing much happened, you know. It was just same old. But that story just made, like I said, you know, I was complaining about my work week, and Kit Harington's ball was stuck in something and getting yanked around. That's worse.
What kind of clothes was he wearing? I mean, what these costumes? How do I mean, are they going like full commando under there to try to like embrace the role? How does your nutsack get caught in a mechanical bull? Because they put mechanical bulls in bars.
Yeah.
Right? And people, there's a lot of injuries that come from them. I don't remember ever hearing a testicle getting ripped from a mechanical bull. Usually it's like, oh crap, he got thrown across the room and he landed on his drunk ass.
Yep.
Never heard about anybody ripping their sack.
Who knows?
Who knows? What a segue. Dave, your week.
Bet your week was better than that too.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. My nuts didn't get stuck in anything this week. That's not a dig at my wife either. So
Well, if your nuts get stuck in her on a good week, then you're still doing it wrong.
that would have been my lead-in. I would have skipped everybody else's week. No, my week for the most part uneventful. I'm helping coach my son's baseball team.
Nice.
A bunch of hold on. There's 11 6 and 7 year olds.
Oh shit.
Yeah. That's more like it.
Thought they were gonna lose before.
If we can get them all in the field looking in the same direction, that's a win.
That's a win. Yeah.
That's a total
If one
win.
kid's not just kicking dandelions, staring off into the other direction.
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
The part you have to be careful of is batting practice. Little kids don't understand the implications of just wildly swinging a metal bat around without looking behind them.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And working on a tee, you set the ball down. They're swinging before your hand is leaving the tee. So you almost have to drop it like a hockey puck. They're fucking insane. And it's amazing to me the difference between not just the age of 6 and 7, but I can already tell the kids that are athletic and the kids that will never be athletes.
Yeah.
I can see it. Right? And it's like, look, this table. It's like I see 2 non-athletes and me. I'm just kidding. No, I know Brad's a baller. But I'm saying, like, you can see the kids that they just pick it up.
Yeah.
They get it. And there's other kids that are, flipping the bat around.
I think you can see it at an even earlier age. You can see the kids that know how to run.
Yeah.
Some kids don't know how to run.
No, hands in their pockets, they're just flailing around.
Oh, yeah, their arms look wild, like they're
Legs
advertising like a car dealship out front. You know?
Yeah, their legs flop out to the side and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, some kids are into it. This, 2 or 3 kids that I can tell, like, all right, they're athletes. They'll play for a few more years. And there's a few that are playing because mom and dad needed a break for an hour every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go run on that field and bother that parent.
They're doing like we're doing, trying to find whatever it is you're good at.
Yeah.
And we had my kids in Little League for exactly one day this year. We joined the Warren Little League right here because we have to be a part of that one now. And all their practices start at 5:15 because apparently all their parents are unemployed.
Yeah.
So we couldn't do it. We couldn't get them to practice, and we couldn't. I mean, they don't practice, they don't play in the game. So it's sad. Their parade is tomorrow, and they won't be there. And the kids aren't really understanding that they're no longer on these teams. So they're not thrilled.
Nah, that sucks.
It sucks, but I get that. You almost have to shop around with your kids to figure out
That's like
what they want
almost
to
on
do.
the same level as Dave not taking his kids to Disney World.
God damn it.
I just want to know which liquor store sponsored this team.
I said I'm helping.
Yeah.
God damn it. Fucking Mouseketeers and Seacon.
Right?
I would just love to see the crowd there. Go absentee parents.
Yeah. It's funny. You can see during the games, like all the parents are in the stands and all the divorced single dads are in folding chairs in the outfield watching the game together. It's like the smoking section, but it's the freedom section instead.
The freedom section.
They look that free and just depressed. We used to have those guys too. Or like their dad wasn't necessarily sure he was welcome to come to the game.
Yeah.
So he's behind the fence in the periphery of right field.
Yeah.
We used to have that dad too. I nailed
Sitting
one
on
of them.
sitting in the bleachers for this field right next door.
One
just
guy with a
watching.
rangefinder to make sure he's not within 100 yards.
He hears the ice cream truck ding. He gets all pissed off. Fuck! And he has to leave.
They didn't call me Mr. Softy.
No.
Buckle up, children.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so we had our practice, and then tomorrow's the opening day. So, first
Nice.
ball game, that sort of stuff. And
Yep.
And then practice every week, every Wednesday, then games every Saturday morning. So.
Actually, tomorrow's probably not your opening day.
No, it doesn't look good.
It's not looking good.
Well, I mean, you could probably hear it. We are in the new Studio B.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we had been recording in my office down in my basement, and those are the episodes that sound really good and warm, and we just couldn't have that.
No.
So we decided we're going to go out in my garage, and I've got this place set up like the world's worst man cave, but I think there's potential here. It might sound a little echoey tonight.
Yeah.
So
we'll fix it.
We'll try to catch it in post. But if you hear raindrops and everything, we're not turning on some kind of like soothing, the smell of rain, ASMR kind of triggering thing. We're not doing that. We're just trying to record in a rainy fucking night.
And when I said we'll fix it, I meant the room, not this episode.
There's not enough work that can be done to fix the episode. We don't have that skill set.
Shit's going to be echoey.
What if we talk like this?
There you go.
Welcome to the
Sweaty balls.
Sweaty balls.
Needless to say.
Yeah.
Sweaty balls caught on a fake dragon.
Yeah.
By a guy who in real life goes by the name Kit.
Yeah.
The guy's real name sounds like a character's name from that fucking show.
From that show, it does.
And I know that now.
Or a show from the early 80s with a car.
Who had better dialogue than most of the people on Game of Thrones.
No.
Faults.
I'm watching it again. I've decided if you can't beat them, join them. And since I listened to 20 minutes of an episode where I didn't understand one single joke.
Yeah.
Like you two were just laughing at things, and
Yeah.
I was offering up residual laughter just to flesh out the experience. I had no idea why any of that shit was funny or interesting or anything, but I said, no, today I'm going to watch this from the beginning. And so I played hooky, okay, and I had some things to do, but I listened in, and I got to tell you, the show is well written.
It is.
The show is intriguing. Don't for a minute think this is something you can put on the TV and then kind of sit on your phone.
No.
If you miss one bit of dialogue, the episode is fucking over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even from that annoying midget.
It's an investment, 100%.
It's an
You
investment.
can't like half watch this show.
No.
There's
you
some
can't.
shows you can kind of put on, like you said, in the background, kind of listen, peer over every so often, and still follow it. But this is not one of
Yeah.
those shows.
But the best part is when Brad said today that he was watching it, all I kept thinking, I was like, oh, you're watching the first episode. See the little girl? You were just looking at her boobs on Tuesday.
There was no way not to feel like a creep about that. Because when I hear that, hey, by the way, the kid who played Arya Stark did her first ever nude scene on a show known for nudity, I'm like, all right, internet, let's have it.
Yeah.
And I clicked and I found it within seconds. And yeah, she had a little airbrushing going on, but I was like,
Yeah.
okay, she's an interesting looking kid. It's pretty. She looks like a midget herself, to be honest.
Yeah,
Her face a little scrunchy.
Yeah.
But I checked it out, and then I started the show over, and I realized she's like 11 in the first
Yep.
one.
Yeah.
And I felt like the biggest fucking creep. I felt like I was driving the Mr. Soft.
That's why that's why I had to like say that to you. I was like, I knew it was gonna like drive it home. Like, oh.
But other than that, it was a victory of a week. I started watching Game of Thrones today because I started my day watching Roadhouse.
wow.
You want to talk about parallel universes?
Yeah, I would say.
I used to fuck guys like you in prison.
Yes, that was an actual line. I was going to quote that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, but
I totally plagiarized that.
You did.
Yep.
You did. But what's worse is that you knew that one from memory.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I saw it this morning. What's your story?
I saw it way too often.
The most convincing guy on the show was Terry Funk, the wrestler, who played one of the bouncers that repeatedly got kicked in the face by a not dead Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Wearing his best collection of blousey shirts and that were tucked into way too tight jeans and cowboy boots. It was one
Covering
of
up his stab wounds and
Oh, yeah.
bullet scars.
What was Swayze's best line in the movie?
There wasn't one.
Pain don't hurt.
That was a good one. That was in the
Pain
doctor's
don't
office,
hurt.
right?
Yeah.
The doctors of pain don't hurt.
How many
Yeah,
times
when
have you
she
seen
was-
this movie?
Too many.
That was when she was stitching up his ribs, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Pain don't hurt. Yeah.
I'm glad
yeah.
he's dead.
Yeah. I'm glad 80s movies are dead. Let's be real.
No way. Fucking Red Dawn was awesome.
All right. The original.
The
not
original
remake
Red Dawn.
with Thor.
He had just
Yep.
as many dumb lines in that one.
And then-
you
no.
got to drink the blood of the deer.
And then
No, I don't.
The Outsiders.
It was good.
Gotta give the guy credit when credit is due. Then you're gonna laugh when he got cancer because he made all those other stupid movies.
I mean, he removed Baby from the corner
Yeah.
and me from the theater. That was
No, that's terrible. But
It's
look,
amazing.
guy,
He was the badass.
Yep.
He was the
not
tough
with that
guy.
hair.
Right?
He was so feathered. How do
he
you
was.
tease your hair as a man? Even in the 80s, when you had a head of hair like that, you kind of wanted to do it.
There was only one head of feathered hair that was badass. Snake Plissken.
Yep.
I'm going to go Don Dokken.
No, what's funny is I always confuse Patrick Swayze and Kurt Russell
Why?
because they are almost they're very similar. Like even right when you started saying that, I started thinking. Remember, Kurt Russell was on Gilligan's Island as a kid.
Oh my God.
I almost remember it being Patrick Swayze for some reason. Like
Well,
it's one.
remember this.
They're similar.
One guy made really good, iconic movies. The other one was Patrick Swayze. There's no other way to put this.
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze
All right,
was the
agreed.
biggest hack and one of the biggest abortions ever to come out of the 80s.
Yep.
Okay, he looked better when he got cancer. When he looked like a fucking twig that had been left out in the rain in 2 winters. And he decided to cover it up with a child's large baseball hat. And that still covered what was left of his ears. That was the best Patrick Swayze ever looked. And you know what, by the way, if you asked him at the end, pain does hurt.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Other than that, I had a great week. I was down in New York. Brad is my name, and dodging professional bullets is my game. I went down there. I think we can all agree that I didn't sound too confident going down to New York last weekend. I was concerned. I thought the company was just shifting too far in the other direction. And
Yeah.
you know what? I might not be wrong still. But I guess you could call this I got an 11th hour reprieve from the governor.
Yeah.
Well, that was your second trip in like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And you hadn't
Yeah.
had to go down there for a while.
And it turns out I'm going to be going a lot more frequently. That was
Okay.
one of the mandates. I had a meeting with the CEO of the company, who's a great guy, very sociable guy. Doesn't really call many meetings with individuals. So
Yeah.
Which is kind of a little bit of your angst, I would think.
I would say this, basically, there's a weird thing that happens. We all share calendars on Outlook.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what happens is if my boss has got something, penciled in for a time, I'll know she's busy. Very rarely do you see what the meeting is about, but my meeting with her was at 1 p.m. and at 11:30, all of a sudden on her calendar, a thing came up and it was just said Brad.
Oh, that's not good.
And the meeting
With
was
an X.
Well, and that was it. And the meeting was with her and the CEO. So they met before to talk about my
you.
role.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And I sat there. That was the longest 90 minutes of my professional life. Even though I was mentally and emotionally prepared for whatever might happen, 90 minutes is 90 minutes,
Yeah.
and they dragged.
That's a long time.
And then we went in there, and I finally sat down with them, and I was expecting them to be like, look, they're just not feeling what you're doing. It was quite the opposite. It turns out they love what we're doing. It's just not making enough money. So I don't want to get into that. We've discussed this.
No,
already.
yeah.
Bottom line, I got kind of a sideways lateral move.
All right.
I'm feeling good about it, but he made it very clear I need to be in New York more. So there's going to be a lot more of this stuff going on.
What kind of frequency are we talking about for you to go
I'm
down
thinking once or twice a month now. Once a month was always going to be
there?
it for a
what
week.
kind of duration?
Probably 3 to 4 days.
All right.
It's not terrible. That's not the issue. The issue is the bigger concern is if they're thinking that I'm not there enough, then they're thinking there's a disconnect between what I do and the rest of
And
the
what's
Yeah.
going on.
and
yeah.
that disconnect is probably what's really looming here. So I need to be smart professionally. I need to get ahead of it. But the good thing about it was that they do appreciate what I bring to the company. It's just a matter of how can we make this make money.
Yeah.
So I don't need to go any further into it than that. But it was kind of a stressful week because that meeting was on the 3rd day of my 3-day stay. So I had 2 days to think about this even prior.
Yeah.
That's worse. Like when you go down there for the trip, and then once you get there, you've got time to spend before it happens, right? So you have time to spend before it happens. That's almost worse because you're there for that business meeting, and now you've got nothing else to distract you. It's just you.
Yeah.
Right? You're at home and you've got kids, you've got your wife, you've got us, you've got plenty of other shit. You've got other things on your mind, but when you go down there, all you've got is your own head for the most part, like your own thoughts.
Well, I was thinking, should Brad have me go down there and talk to him maybe?
Yeah.
Let's see if we could smooth things over for him.
I do need. I can't afford a lawyer,
Yeah.
but I do need somebody that laid floor in a
Hey,
courthouse.
he's
So
a good- I'm your man.
I mean, it's fine. I feel like I belabor this every week. I don't know what's going to happen. I wish they had just done this on day one so I could exhale and enjoy my stay in New York.
Yeah.
Now, as you guys saw from the pictures each night, I managed to get through it.
You survived
I
somehow.
survived. I'd like to thank my friends at Lagunitas
Yeah.
for
Yep.
making this possible. But anyway, let's get right into, first of all, before we even get into what our main topic was that we introduced in the intro, let's get into what's stabbing us right now.
Yeah.
5 Infinity Stones worth of the Avengers
The
open
Avengers.
today.
Yep.
6.
What? 6 Infinity Stones.
Okay, I'm just not as much a nerd as you guys. I'm really
I'm
trying.
not- I'm
I'm
not
I didn't,
really
even
trying.
catch, I didn't even catch that he said that.
I got it.
Yeah, but if you weren't a nerd, you wouldn't have corrected me. You would have let
Well,
it
there's
go.
6
All
of
right.
them. There's a giant one at the top.
No, he's not here tonight, remember?
Yeah.
That one's always at the bottom. That's the Infinity Bone.
The Infinity Bone.
So, based on the discussion tonight, nobody here has seen it yet.
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay, so now we can either go spoiler-free zone or we can really break down what we think is going to happen. I say, fuck it, let's go do it. Let's tear
Yeah,
this
well,
thing
We
down.
might as well.
We can't spoil it. We haven't
because we
seen
don't know
it.
what happened.
We
Right?
don't know what happens.
I do.
And by the time it comes up, Brad went online. He's so bad at this. There's not a movie. He's like, I know what happens. I know what happened. When we went and see Star Wars, he did that.
I didn't get all of the spoilers. Like the predictions I made earlier were not based on that. We were talking offline, and I was trying to act all smart and shit. That was not based on spoilers I read.
Gotcha.
There is one spoiler I wanted to know about for one character I do like.
Yeah.
And so I got the ending there, and I won't reveal it. But
No, yeah, because in all honesty, I'm dying to see it, and I don't want to. I'm avoiding anytime I'm like online. If I see anything that says Avengers, I'm going right past it as fast as I can because I don't want to see it because I'm gonna go see the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, spoilers to me, it's okay. I can get by. If I see it, I'm still gonna go see the movie, but I'd rather enjoy it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I know how To Kill a Mockingbird ends. I read it every year. I spoilers to me are not. It's how they present, how they tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always been that way for me. I actually would rather go into a Star Wars movie or an Avengers knowing what would happen, and then
See how it got there.
kind of approaching it from the writer's perspective. What I would have done differently, what I agreed with, things like that. I enjoy more the creation of the movie than I do the actual end result. I don't want to cry at the end of this either, so that was part of it. No, I should never cry at a fucking Marvel movie
At a movie, yeah, exactly.
Why not?
because it's a fucking comic book
So
movie.
what?
They're not emotional.
But their
Obviously
characters,
they are.
I won't even let
But-
Craig call them books. He calls them books all the time.
Well,
Drives
when I-
me up the fucking
He's an
wall.
illiterate asshole. Don't base it on him.
When I refer to comic books, I just say I bought this book this week. I'm basically just shortening.
You're trying to make yourself sound smart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's episode 86.
I
not
left-
happening.
I left the comic book. I went to the comic book store today.
Yeah.
Walked in, started going through some stuff, looking at the wall, and then I started going through some boxes, and these people started talking about it immediately. These people came in, they started talking about it with the guy behind the register,
All right.
and he just started talking, and I'm like, I haven't seen it yet, and they're like, oh, sorry, so they stopped for 3 seconds,
You can't
and
help
then they went back to it, and then they're trying to whisper, and I'm like, it's a fucking comic book store. I'm the only one here except for you three right now because it was early. It was earlier in the day. I got done with work fairly early, so I went there. And I'm like, fuck. I tried to I went down further, and then I just left. I didn't even buy anything. And I was
What
like,
floors me is that you found two self-indulgent dickheads in a comic book store. Who'd have thunk it?
right?
Were they wearing tight jeans?
One of them was, yeah.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah, they were. Yep.
I like those guys that ignore their fatness, and they, it's like what Spanx were a few years ago for women. Like they think they'd slap on this elastic band around their waist. Like it's got to go somewhere.
All they did is push the cellulite up.
Just
above
like
their
a
belt.
fucking tube of toothpaste.
So their fucking medium shirt is stretched, and the fucking buttons are holding on like string around a ham. Fucking idiots.
I nearly got my ass kicked in New York once because I was like, hey, buddy, we're in a bar and he was acting like a douche. I'm like, what size is that shirt? Extra medium? Just like that. It's one of those things where you could like read the braille like bumps on his nipples because it was so fucking tight. But I got a guy at work. He's a good guy, but he's built like a fucking, remember that orange thing from the Bugs Bunny comics?
Yep. Yeah.
Like a big orange fuzzy tooth.
His name is George, and I'm good.
Yeah. Like big and wide at the top, and he tapers down.
Yeah.
That's what these jeans are doing. Okay, if you got fat, fucking lumpy shoulders, you think you're gonna throw on your fucking tight ass Bugle Boys and you're gonna hide that shit.
Yeah.
You're not. And then on top of it, he wears black Keds. Come on. Not Chuck Taylors. He's wearing Keds.
They're retro.
Yep.
No. There's another word I want to use, but I won't.
Please.
Please. So, what's going to happen in the Avengers, fellas? I'm going to lead with Craig because he was in the comic book store today and probably knows, thanks to two.
No, I didn't. No, I left before anything got crazy. Well, one thing I do know is because they're making announcements. There's no end credit scene.
There's no right, which has been their MO.
That's
One
been
of the things that have tied a lot of these movies together.
And people are just sitting in the theater waiting until like ushers had to come in and say, "You can stay, but."
Next movie starts in 20
The next
minutes.
movie starts in 20 minutes, and there is no. So now they're making announcements to people,
Wow.
because people are going in and expecting that
Sure.
and waiting. But I always did it.
Well,
I always waited because that's been going on for 15 years now.
that was their little hook, and that's how
Yeah.
they tied one movie into the next.
Yeah,
Subtly, but it's kind of like that little teaser.
the
I'm
little
actually
teaser.
the only.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only guy in America who doesn't like those. I don't like the fact that they're making you sit through the obnoxious credits just to get to something that really should have been part of the main.
Just Nick Fury walking up to a random person that you know is going to be a certain character or something like that.
I'm okay with it, like the early mid-credit scenes. Like they do it, like they they end the movie, then they show all the names of like the major characters, major actors, and then they do other middle. I'm good with that. It's like, all right, we kind of this part ended. It's a little encore, like you can't, like a band coming back on the stage and playing a song, right?
But when you wait until the entire thing is over,
Like, no one needs to know what fucking tech assistant scratched the balls of this sound guy for this one scene in Uganda 3 months ago. No one cares about that.
Yep.
If it was Ghana, then I'm watching.
Yeah,
Yep.
well,
Yeah.
we have an emotional connection there.
Yeah.
I think if I hear the theme song, I should never know what the entire theme song sounds like. Like, it's obviously this 12-minute orchestral score.
Yep.
I don't need to know what the ending sounds like. I should never have to hear that just to watch them eating shawarma in the middle of a dilapidated New York City.
Yep.
That always pissed me off. If you want to lead into something, then have a big blockbuster ending.
Yep.
Cliffhangers are starting to piss me off because they're crutches. And they've always leaned on it. So the fact that it doesn't have it is good because that means to me, now we're finally moving to the next story.
Yeah.
The next level.
And I think that's, in my mind, that was kind of the lead in. Like, that's kind of how these comics were written. So, like, there are all these individual characters had their own stories, but they crossed over. And I think that's how in the movies they had those crossovers and connected them initially. And
Yeah.
to your point, Brad, I think without this, and that was one of the things, my prediction, I'm throwing air quotes, not so much about specific stories. Like, this movie, I think, is going to be the end of, I say definitive end of a storyline. Even though in comics we know storylines never really
They don't
end,
matter.
Right? They can get reset
They don't matter.
and changed.
They can
It
be like,
doesn't
oh, that didn't happen.
the X-Men have done it, I don't know how many times in 20 years.
Yeah.
But I think this movie is going to be an end to a storyline that was started, but at the same time it's going to be so big and epic, people are going to be like, shit, now what's going to happen next? How are they going to bring in a whole, like, people are going to want to know how Marvel and Disney start over almost and continue things on. So I kind of like him. And honest, while I'm on the topic, I don't know if you guys remember that first Hulk movie that came out like 12 years ago with Eric Bana.
Yep.
The best one, I might add.
It got land based a lot. I liked how they visually how it looked like a fucking comic.
Yeah.
A lot of the scenes they dissolved from scene to scene looked like comic panels. I thought that was a cool thing in the movie. I liked that.
They were still trying things out. That was on the heels of Spider-Man.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. Spider-Man was the first big comic movie. Like they
Well,
started
that's
with, like,
Since the 70s, yeah.
Since the
Yeah,
70s,
they-
when they, yeah,
there's been a few they've done since then, here and there. Like they had the Superman movies, and then the
well, that kick-ass fucking Captain America movie from the 80s.
and the Fantastic Four, right
the
there.
Fantastic.
But they had you had the Tim Burton Batman movies in the early '90s.
Horrible.
You had the Blade movies in the late '90s, early 2000s. The Punisher movie was kind of like so. There's
I love that movie.
but there were these weird shots on their own, and then they finally
Yeah.
hit it with the Iron Man. Like they tried it a few times,
Yeah.
and then they kind of got their format and ran with it.
I think Spider-Man was the one that kicked it off when you knew that CGI was enough to make these movies a reality.
It was believable.
Watch it now.
You know, no, I know.
Oh, did that not age well?
No, I know. But what I'm saying is, it was enough to say we can get away with this. Because before that, the Spider-Man movie before that was him just throwing his arm forward, and then a guy laying against a wall, and they just throwing rope on him.
Well, the camera
know?
turns sideways, and he's just walking, and it looks like he's on a
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like when in the 60s when Batman and Robin used to walk up the side of the building and they'd walk
Yeah.
in unison.
Yeah.
I used to enjoy that.
But even that, it was the CGI of that brought it to say, okay, now we can make these things a reality almost. You know, and they started doing it. And the Tobey Maguire movies were good. I thought the storylines were good. I liked them.
Yeah,
Then people were like, why'd they reboot him? I'm like, well, watch him again and see why they rebooted it and why they had to do it. You know?
But now they've done it twice. And that's starting to piss me off. The kid's good now.
No, the new kid is.
he's great.
To be honest with you, he's been my favorite Peter Parker.
yeah.
All right, I'll give it to you. Let's get back on point, though. I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, if it's okay with you guys.
No,
I'd
that's
like to
fine.
get right into the Avengers portion of it. Let's get into the
We're in
predictions.
Studio B. I guess he's in charge.
He is. He is.
No, I'm just
I re-
the only one who gets a little
prediction-wise-
annoyed.
I really don't have many predictions. I want to see how it plays out. I'm not one for I'll go online and look at theories from fan theories and stuff, and it pisses me off, a lot of them, because what happens is if I develop a theory for a movie, then I want that to happen.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then I'm upset.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that
no,
doesn't mean
I
you're
just
not
didn't-
doing it.
You're
You're rationalizing it now,
You're
but
just not
it
vocalizing it.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Why?
Yeah.
Saying it out loud isn't going to make it any more or less true. So you've got an obligation to our listeners to finally break down this weird nerd wall that you put up and just get to it.
That's just my thing.
It's tough. I mean, it's obviously Tony Stark is going to pull some kind of him and what's his name from Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, going to pull some time travel.
Wow.
Yep,
That just happened. Who's that guy from Doctor Strange?
Benedict Cumberbatch is what I was going for.
Just say Doctor Strange. Because his name in real life is worse. It's like Kit Harington.
Yeah. I'm going to pull some kind of time travel type thing.
And
Yeah.
I'm concerned about this too.
And it's going to... I don't know where they're going to go with it from there, how they're going to play that out. Maybe not, obviously.
There's got to be
I
something
don't know.
to it.
There's got to be something like that.
Purely on the fact that the scene in the previous movie, when he said, this is the end game, he just handed over the time stone.
Yeah.
Like that, it was all kind of precipitated on that. And that's the name of this movie, And that term end game has been used a few times in previous movies.
He said there's 1,000 or whatever ways that there was only a
Millions,
small amount, small amount that were going to work.
One.
And then he hands him the times.
Yeah.
That's the one that's going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
what Brad's asking you is, what's the one thing they're going to do?
Yeah, come on.
How's it going to end?
Let's stop. Let's stop getting nerdy about it. Let's really break this down into like, okay, I'm a moviegoer. Okay, I know these characters from the movies. What are they going to do to make me walk out satisfied? Because I think if they don't deliver a satisfying ending here, it's going to be worse than the ending of Lost.
Yeah, no. And from what I hear, they didn't. From what I hear, they delivered.
That's what I've heard as well.
And I don't know. I don't.
All right, I'll jump in.
Give you up because I really don't.
So here's what I think. Thanos is going to survive.
Yes.
He's
I
going to
agree
survive.
with that.
I think Iron Man and Captain America are either going to leave or die. They're going to somehow either walk away or they're going to die. They're going to be done with this. I think Thor decides to leave and go off into the universe and do some other shit. Because I think Captain Marvel said there are other worlds out there without you here. So he's going to decide there's enough people on Earth. He's going to leave to do his own thing.
Yep.
Now, wait a minute. Does that mean he's leaving the series?
Yes.
Okay, so he's not. There won't be any more Thor movies.
I think you'll see other people take up the Thor mantra, but I don't think you'll see Chris Hemsworth's Thor back.
Yeah.
I guess
Really?
Yeah, I don't think you'll see it.
because he's the one guy
No,
in real world contract negotiations who's, I believe, obligated to do
I'm
more.
going to do more.
You
Yeah.
might see. I think you might see appearances. I don't think you're going to see Thor 4. Like,
Yeah,
he's not going to be central
I
character.
see what you're saying.
Okay.
I also think Hawkeye's going to die. He's going to die to get his family back.
Yep.
And I think somehow Bruce Banner is going to become the Hulk permanently and be off world.
Or what I think with the Hulk is I think he's going to become, off-world. See, I didn't think about that. What I was thinking now is he's going to turn into, not turn into, he's going to be able to control it.
Yeah. Yep.
He
And-
can become the Hulk like that and turn it off.
Yeah, on and off. And my
You know
last
what I mean?
prediction is Black Widow will die, but they will somehow preserve her ass in spandex for everybody to enjoy forever.
I hope so.
That's one girl that doesn't need Spanx.
No.
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 Well, she does, but not the clothes.
Ha ha ha.
Yep.
You see what I did there?
Yeah, I did.
That was a naughty joke.
I did. She got herpes. She got herpes from Derek Jeter, though. Just,
You know what?
Just to ruin it for you. I would take herpes.
Hey, I would. You know what? I'd let Jeter give me herpes. Fuck that. I wouldn't even need her as the medium.
I'd be like, you know
Fuck
what? It only flares up once in a while.
Be in the bathroom just scratching my dickhead off. Worth it.
Jeter in '98. Yeah.
Yeah. So my bigger prediction for this is more beyond the movie. I think the movie ends in a way that opens it up to bring the mutants back into this.
New Mutants,
Yeah.
the Fantastic Four.
Yep.
Even X-Men again.
And that's kind of where I was going. It is different versions, iterations of X-Men. Yeah.
Too many fucking characters.
No.
I think
There
they'll
already are.
I think they'll focus in on the big ones.
The actual real X-Men, like Wolverine was not the main character of the
he was-
X-Men.
He was just the best one.
He was the coolest.
And he was one of the first like anti-heroes that were
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah.
Which are still popular.
That's
He was
the
the
whole
first
thing
one who
now.
had a miserable life.
Right, and he was like,
everything
"Fuck everybody,"
Yeah,
and- yeah.
exactly.
So who do you think plays the next Wolverine? You know what's going to happen. That the money in that is too
It
big.
has to happen.
Who do you think is the next character, the next actor to pick up Wolverine?
I think it's gonna be some no name.
Gilbert
I think
Gottfried.
they want the Louis Anderson.
Adamantium! I got adamantium bones! His claws are hurting me! Why do I have claws?
I wish we had a video. Right now. Dave looks like he's mulching.
I was trying to jerk off! And the claws cut off my right nut!
And my left one got stuck in the bowl.
Gilbert Gottfried.
I would watch that movie right now.
Yeah, I'm in on that one.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Dave Chappelle is Captain America.
Fuck this shit, I'm out of here.
Fuck you, Nazi motherfuckers!
I just want to see how many bad impressions Dave can do. And I want to thank you for realizing that his bad impression was slightly better than yours and stopping it right away.
Exactly.
I think the obvious pick for Wolverine would be like Tom Hardy,
He does too many bad
No,
but
He's
he's
Venom.
already committed to Venom.
He's Venom.
And he's also been Bane.
He was
in
Bane-
a different universe,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter. The point is, after a while, you're going to get typecast. He
I
won't do
totally
it.
agree.
He won't
No,
do it.
I think he fits the look though.
He's Venom, and that's going to
That's gonna
continue
take
on
off,
because
yeah.
that's going to be Carnage. Is
Yeah.
going to be the next.
I think
And
they
they
need to
already
make
did
the
that,
characters the
but-
center. I think they're going to get a bunch of no names, good actors, but
They
no
have
names.
to. They have to be no names. I think you're right.
I think you need to get to the point where the characters.
That's
really
how
take
you
over.
establish a character because you can't just throw like fucking what's his name? So and so, this famous actor is now Captain America. Hey, George Clooney standing there. Hey guys, I'm Captain America.
That's what I mean. Like Tony Stark, we love the character, but let's be real, it was Robert Downey Jr.
But the thing is Robert Downey Jr. was gone for so long. It was almost like when John Travolta popped
I was
up
just
in
gonna
Pulp
say
Fiction.
that. Yes.
You know what I mean? Robert Downey Jr. was gone for so long, and then he came back in real life. He was a partying fucking millionaire that saw him standing in court with his hair fucking in a disaster, And then he came back as Tony Stark, the cocky billionaire that partied hard. And
so far, this isn't a stretch.
Yeah, so
No,
he was
that's
just
what
getting
I'm saying.
paid to do it now instead of getting fined.
But the thing was, you didn't see him for a while. Robert Downey Jr. was going for a while before he came back as Iron Man.
I'll give you that. But
And
we all knew who he
back,
was.
And he came back, but he came back and portrayed a fantastic Iron Man because that's who Iron Man was.
Yeah.
See, I always read Iron Man as a little grumpier, a little older.
Well, but he was never. There was no secret identity.
Yep.
There was no bullshit. He was like, I'm fucking Iron Man. Let's party. And because if I was Superman, there'd be a giant S in the roof of my house.
Yeah. Who's gonna do anything to you? What's the fucking
I'd be like,
secret?
fucking, that's right.
I'm gonna go kill Superman.
Superman,
no, you're not.
bitches.
Yeah.
There'd be fucking music on my front lawn.
Try getting his paper and looking at a cape.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck it.
You stand proudly with your hands on your hips and you open the mailbox with your dick.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Get loaded one night.
I never understood that.
Why did we choose to live in Alaska? Of all the places to live, he puts his Fortress of Solitude all those miles away. Put it like,
because it
Was he gonna
looked
put it
like
next to
ice.
the bunny ranch?
Yep.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's
The
where I
fortress
would
of
have put
prostitutes?
it. I would have put it right on the side of the White House.
Make me move it.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, try.
Melania wakes up in the middle of the night. Oh, Donald.
Yeah.
That ain't Donald. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know, man. I got a different take on it.
Let's hear it.
I think Iron Man dies.
All right.
I think that would be
would be.
I think because he's been so selfish as a character, maybe not intentionally. Like his first impression on us was that he was a selfish, self-indulgent asshole.
which was accurate.
Right.
And he's played that part very well.
And he has. But joining the Avengers was his first act of selflessness. Then at the end of the original Avengers movie, he sacrifices himself nearly, flying up into that big hole in the sky.
Yes.
Okay, so he started to show progression for this, but I don't think the character of Tony Stark is ever truly going to be past his rich bad boy ways. Just coming from a writer's perspective and a character development perspective, he has to die. And it's not because he's not contracted to make more movies. I think the character has to die.
There's nothing else he can do that's greater than how he sees himself.
And it can move on. It's a suit.
Yeah. Rhodey
You know what
has
I
one.
mean? It's Jarvis and a suit.
All right.
It's Friday now.
No, but yeah.
All right, but you get the point.
But it can move on to another character. It can be. He could say, "Hey, I leave this to you. You're in charge."
But I always
to
thought,
whoever
I
it
got to
is.
disagree with you. I always thought that the fact that he ran a weapons company for so long showed that he had the instincts to make him better at running that suit. It wasn't just that anybody in Jarvis could do it. It was that his instincts as somebody who's now seen both sides of the war. You remember back to the original Iron Man, he was on the other side of the war, and he saw what his weapons were doing. And so that was supposed to give him a little emotional gravitas. And so I think the ultimate culmination for Tony Stark is to die, probably saving Gwyneth Paltrow, that awful cunt.
Right.
Okay? She's an awful human being. I
is.
dropped a C-bomb in a comic book conversation.
I can't stand her.
She earned
it. She earned it.
She's earned every step of it, but she's good at Pepper Potts.
Yes.
And I think that he's going to end up dying to save her in the universe, and that's going to be that. I don't think Captain America dies. I think everybody feels like he's going to make the selfless sacrifice.
But that's what you'd expect.
I think more than any other character, one character that's going to benefit from time travel is a guy who came from the 1940s and was frozen in ice.
Yeah.
And if I had to make a guess, and from what I'm reading on the internet, I'm not alone, is that this time travel thing is going to play a role, and he's going to see where his life could have gone with that chick from Peggy or whatever her name was.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think he's going to get a glimpse into what he could have had and realize that as much as he's enjoyed saving the universe, I don't think that's the life he really wanted. I think he wanted his life as a soldier and an honest American, and he would go back to doing what he did. But I think he lives. I just don't think he lives in our time.
Kind of walks away, or
I think time travel. The thing that annoys me about the time travel thing is it's necessary to make this right, but it also is a crutch for writers because they can just undo any wrongs that they have done. All of that finger snapping, everybody's like, oh, it's so sad and so dramatic. Did you really think they killed Black Panther after the most successful movie opening of all time?
Yeah.
No, I think he's good. I think we're good.
He's all right.
So time travel is
and they don't want a bunch of people going, they killed the black guy.
Exactly. I think they were very careful to make sure he wasn't the first one to turn to dust.
No,
he's like, I ain't going out there.
Wakanda for? Shh.
Well, it's so funny.
His final words were,
I watched the Meg this week, and they had the one black guy, and I'm like, he's not making it to the end of the movie. It's the stereotypical, and black people say it all the time. Black guy never makes it out.
and he always dies first.
Yeah.
And now I think they're writing it as a joke.
They're writing it as a joke, and he made it for a long time. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just that was a horrible movie. God damn.
Oh my
God.
How do you ruin a shark movie? Shark movies are so easy to write.
I love bad movies. I hate that fucking movie.
That's terrible.
Because it's not a fun bad movie. I haven't seen it. I had no desire to see it.
It's terrible. It's stupid. Jason Stamos is stupid.
Jason Stamos.
Statham, whatever the fuck is.
Jason,
Stamos.
But if there's a Jason Stamos listening, you also suck.
Jason Stamos.
And your distant relative recorded Kokomo in a pair of jams.
Bald-headed bongo playing idiot.
That fucking hair helmet on top of his head. Yeah. He looks like Lori Loughlin does now.
Right.
Leaving court. That's exactly what John Stamos looked like then. I got one final prediction. And again, more of a layman's thing. I think all of the characters take on new forms. I think the time travel thing is going to alter every universe. And I think everything we've come to know about them, in order to make this a true ending and a true clean break, everybody's going to evolve into something else. So Ant-Man is going to be a different way. Like, I think he'll be more like an ant. I think they're going to take like liberties. He's not just a small dude.
He's got antennae.
I think maybe he can lift 70 times his own weight or whatever the number is. I feel like you're going to see more evolution to really make this a clean break. And as from a writing perspective, I'm all for it. As somebody who was going to sit 3 hours in a movie theater to watch this, it better not fucking piss me off.
Nah, and I don't think it will. I think it's going to be good. Like I said, I was trying not to make predictions, trying not to do things because I want to enjoy.
You don't want to have expectations.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
And that's a lot of problem with Star Wars and the haters. And we're not going to get into Star Wars, but I'm saying with a lot of the haters of the new Star Wars movies is because they have expectations built up from years of being fans, and when it doesn't happen, they get pissed.
Yeah, and you gotta take what Brad's saying to heart, because a lot of the good things we're hearing so far are people that want to like this movie.
But it's
if people bought tickets a month and a half ago, waited in line to do this, and they're going to see it, they're going to like this movie. They've already decided they're going to like it. They're going to like it. I want to hear what the reviews are next week.
Yeah.
And next weekend. That's when you'll start getting some more of the truth and the honesty. There'll be people at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, like, fuck this movie, it was stupid, they did this.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to get more realistic feel for what the general populace thinks a week or two in.
I think the three of us should go see the movie and then come back with a review.
Yeah, I think so.
With spoiler-free review. I'd invite Mike, but there's no way he's getting through the metal detector with that bone in his face. Seriously, you look like the door knocker on a haunted house.
My thing, one of my things about like this whole superhero movie and even comic books is they can go anywhere with the story.
Yeah.
So they can be totally original by being ridiculous.
But I think that's cheap. Right? And I'm sorry for interrupting, but
I
think that's cheap.
But every movie, like serious, like not serious, but down to earth movie, whether it's a comedy, a horror, or whatever. That's how they go. It's either funny, but you know what's going to happen. It's a horror. You know what's going to happen. It's a drama. You can figure out what happens by halfway through. You know what I mean?
And if Sandra Bullock's in it, you know what's going to happen.
You know what's going to happen. So the originality of those movies is gone. Mm-hmm. Which kind of leads us to this topic that we were going to actually discuss tonight.
We've been talking about it all week. Not the Avengers, but this story with Conan O'Brien.
Yes.
Right? So he's in the news. He's got it's a pending lawsuit, right?
Yes.
For stealing jokes.
Stealing
what
jokes.
It boils down to. So this started the discussion with us over the course of the week.
But they were obvious jokes.
Nowadays with social media and things, if something happens in the public, everybody sees it. And there's going to be a lot of similar jokes and things about that.
Yes.
That's one
Thank
thing. There's a difference with someone performing a routine where they're talking about specific situations that people can potentially relate to, and someone else sees it and they say, I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
It's different.
That's different. That's different. That's what I was getting at is like with comedy, there's a situation. You see something, it's funny.
Yeah.
Or you see a situation that's funny that, say it came on the news, and there's been times we've all done it just in the chat. We've seen an article and all almost made the same exact joke.
Right.
Because we see exactly what's happening.
And then 2 days later, Mike makes the joke.
Yeah.
But right after he says, hey guys, you see this?
Yeah.
Is the episode up yet?
Yeah. But, so there's a distinct of plagiarism. There's a distinct portion of plagiarism. They say if there's something not original about, if there's a joke that just comes out, it's like, yeah, that's the funny side of that. And that joke can be said from anybody.
Well, let's scale this back.
I'm screwing this up.
Okay.
No, you're not screwing anything up.
I think, it's no secret.
I'm trying to explain. I'm trying to explain myself, and it's not coming out right. Is what I'm getting.
That's
at.
fair.
It's because we're speaking English.
Yeah.
Yes. It's always a hang-up of yours. I think, take it from a writing perspective, because since I've lived there tonight anyway, I feel like there's only so many words in the English language. And there's only so many ways to tell a story. If you look at a news article, you can have the Dubuque, Iowa paper doing the same thing as the Boston Herald. Okay, they're going to still tell the same story because it's all going to come down to who, what, where, when, and why.
Yes.
Comedy's no different because, what makes something funny is going to probably be the same level of funny across the board.
Sure.
I think the problem right now, and you've heard us say this so many times on the show, social media allows everybody to be a momentary comic.
Yes.
Yes.
And so,
an expert even in certain situations.
Well, if you make the right comment and you get seen by the right people, then you're considered now the thought leader. It's fleeting.
Yeah.
It's not something that lasts, but it's something that makes you prominently positioned. So if you make a joke about, let's just say Trump falls over and collapses and dies, and we all laugh and have a good chuckle about it. All right, but the way he does it, let's say he trips on something and somebody makes a joke about him tripping on his own words or his own lies or something, and that gets a whole ton of traffic.
Yeah.
Then technically, if you were the first one to do it, then it should be your joke.
It should be your joke.
Sure. Because you put it in writing, and there's got to be a certain amount of intellectual property ownership over your own tweets. But who's to say that some guy in California didn't do it at the exact same moment?
Yeah.
There's billions of Twitter users around the world, and we're all watching the same 5 news items.
Yeah. There's a chance that someone else was just telling that joke to a group of people as opposed to putting it in print.
Right.
Exactly. A perfect example is a caption contest. Oh. How many times have you seen even if you've never done one, if you go and look through all the comments on a caption contest, you'll always find 2 or 3 that are very similar because it's an obvious thing. I've done it. I've done a caption contest, wrote something, and looked down and found something almost verbatim. Yeah. And said, "Oh shit, I was late on it. That guy got it before me.
Yep.
Now I feel like I just copied him, but I didn't." That's different.
Same thing happened to me a few weeks ago. There's a heavy metal site that does a caption contest, and you can win CDs and T-shirts and things.
Yeah.
I've won 6 times. I shit you not, I've won 6 times, and I'm not bragging. I just want to mention that I'm just a little more original than most of you.
Well, Brad also ran a contest for a long time called the Friday Game, and I won it about 5 times.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. But I offered nothing but pride.
Yeah,
There
it was
were no
just pride.
prizes.
but I took it.
You get an electronic
just one
pat
of-
on the back.
I won one a few weeks ago. It was the picture was Lars Ulrich from Metallica wearing a turban, and I went seek and destroy. And that was
Yeah.
it. There were 9 versions of that
yeah.
underneath it,
Yep.
and I just happened to get there first.
Yep.
So I won the contest, but should I have? I don't know. Maybe somebody thought of it first. There's no way of determining this.
Yeah.
The lawsuit that we're referencing for Conan O'Brien, that's a different animal because they're talking about late night comedy.
Yep.
Late night comedy has a certain set of rules and parameters that they all have to follow. They have to be edgy but not dirty.
Yep.
They have to fall within network guidelines. They have to not take too much of a political stance. You can be against your president for obvious things, but no network wants their entertainment show to position their network politically one side or the other.
Yeah.
So you can make fun of the president, Colbert does it and
Yeah.
Conan does it, but nobody ever takes that hard stance. So they're working with a much smaller palette.
Yep.
And so you keep yupping me. I feel like you got something to
No,
say.
I'm with you.
But the truth is, I think what Conan is doing is actually worse because he's only given a handful of bullets to put in his arsenal. And yeah, he probably told the same joke. Tell me the last time you don't remember Leno and Letterman doing the same jokes every night.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Well, that was one of the things we talked about. Is we're talking about, you mentioned it, Brad, parallel thinking.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a bunch of people having a similar thought or joke at the same time because there's some obvious punchline there. And you mentioned late night. How many late night shows air like the same day? They've got a group of writers every day. They look at the news, what happened. They're going to make similar jokes because there's big headlines. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
I think that's very different than me if I decided I want to try stand-up comedy, watching videos, shows, stand-ups of old comics, saying that's funny. I'm going to change that a little bit and make it more
tweak
modern.
it. Yeah, just
That's
tweak it.
different.
That's different.
I'm lifting content. I think that's a very different.
If I'm going to
animal.
apply it to my bit and taking somebody's bit and just changing something, like Carlos Mencia did, just adding Mexican to, to other jokes. Because there's times, like I said, I said it earlier. How many times in the chat have we posted a headline and all of us like, oh, I was just going to write that. Because we're all in we have the same mentality, to an extent, I know you guys are going to be like, fuck you, I don't have your mentality.
Well, no, we can just type it. Literally,
No,
we can just type it so you can read it.
yeah.
All right, but let me throw a wrench in the machine here. What if you genuinely didn't know when you were writing your comedy routine? Say you play to 15 people at a coffee shop once a month.
Yep.
And there's another comedian out there who you've never heard of that did the exact same telling, the exact same payoff and delivery, and you had no idea. Is that plagiarism or is that just ignorance?
I would say it's both.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit of both.
Back that up.
I mean, it's there was no malintent there, but at the end of the day, you ended up doing something someone's already done. I think it all depends on how you handle it after the fact.
Yeah, exactly.
If that guy came up to me and be like, dude, I did that bit 2 years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Like, I had no idea. Like, who the fuck are you? And I'd want to research a little bit, but I think it's more about the intent in those cases.
Well, that actually happened to a comedian who I respect very much because he defends the art of comedy and he defends people against joke stealing, and that's Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
Patton Oswalt is a big proponent of
he
joke stealing,
is.
but it's because I found out just today in getting ready for this episode that he was actually a big
Accused,
problem.
yeah.
He accused and he did it and he owned it. But one of his best bits that he ever did was about KFC's famous bowls.
Yep.
And how you pile all your food in a fucking bowl because that's American now. We don't even want to chew anymore. I mean, it's a great routine.
Yeah.
And his delivery sells it big time. But it turns out Jim Gaffigan, a comedian he's very familiar with, did the same thing about Hot Pockets.
Oh my, that's one of my favorite bits.
And sometimes though, is it subconscious? Too, like not subconscious, but did is Patton Oswalt driving through a KFC drive-through and going, look at this fucking bowl, but because of that bit that John Gaffigan did, it's in the back of his head.
Yeah.
Does he write? All of a sudden, it pops into his it's his own idea, almost, accidental, like subconscious.
I got to interrupt you. Saying his name correctly is not plagiarism. It's Jim Gaffigan.
Jim Gaffigan. Oh, what did I say? Did I say John?
You did.
Yeah, I did. Jim Gaffigan. No, but
He's so afraid of being sued for plagiarism, he's just changing people's names.
no, I've done it. I did it last week, and I said it to you. I made a comment last week, and it was the timing of what you had said made me say it.
Yeah.
And I said it. I said, "Oh, that was," because Brad was like, "Oh, that was hilarious." I said, "Well, I didn't. That wasn't me." You know what I mean?
It's real easy to do. We're all influenced by comedians. But when you're Patton Oswalt and you're a touring comedian making real money, and I mean Jim Gaffigan's a direct compatriot of his.
Yeah.
Okay, they're peers. You probably should have been aware. I mean, I have to do research about the writing that I do for my website. Craig has to research how to lay a floor, so he's not.
Yeah, exactly.
But in reality, if you're a comedian, you only work at night. You should be spending your days researching what everybody else is doing.
Yeah,
and so you're aware of what's going on in the world and who's handling it what way and how you can put your own unique spin on it.
Yeah,
and I think Patton owned it. He wrote this tremendous, it's got to be a 25,000 word essay apologizing to Jim Gaffigan.
Which is awesome because he owned it. He saw, hey, I fucked up, I made a mistake, and I did it.
And that's what I was saying is how you handle it, I think, and the intent goes a long way to kind of distinguish between stealing and parallel thinking.
You used it, but then you know what? You credited the guy who originally said, hey, listen, I fucked up, I made a mistake, whatever it was, like I said, subconsciously, I went into this routine and wrote this bit without realizing that it came in from someone else's bit.
All right, but the album is still available.
Yeah.
And it's still out there streaming. And if I'm a musician and I write a song that's a direct ripoff, like what Coldplay
Led Zeppelin did
well,
to the other bands and 1,000 bands.
Coldplay did it to Joe Satriani in the most obscene lift I've ever
Yeah.
heard. You can buy both of those albums.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to know now, should Patton Oswalt have removed his comedy album and put out an altered version without that bit in it? Like, you can't unsay it. You can't unring that
it's
bell.
out there.
But you shouldn't still be profiting from it either if you admitted outright that you lifted
So
something.
I think one of two things: he either pulls the bit from the CD, or
Gives Jim
gives
Gaffigan
the
5%
proceeds.
or 10%.
And I don't think Gaffigan would ever take it.
No, but that's not the point.
But I think I would pull it, but especially now that most people are streaming it anyway.
Yeah.
Just ask Spotify to pull that track.
Yeah.
And do a different lead in. You
Yep.
know, I think there's ways around this.
I keep wanting to say John Gaffigan. I
don't
did
even know
it
who
again.
that is.
That's
I
because
know,
you're an idiot.
'cause I don't know who it is, and I like Jim Gaffigan. That's the worst part.
Hot pocket.
Yeah, hot pockets. Yeah. No, but I mean, I would say if that was me and I put and that happened, I would say, hey, I apologize. You know, if the album's out, it's out right now. It's selling. Let me give you 20% of my profit goes to you.
I mean, most people who heard that album, that's the bit that they reference.
Yeah.
And honestly, he does it better than Gaffigan.
No, but that's the
not
thing.
the
And then,
point.
Not
you
the
know what?
point.
But it's not the point. But it's like, hey, my bit worked more. It's making more money than yours when you did it. Yeah. so here's a bunch of profits from it.
It's bound to happen.
No,
though,
but it's
because
bound to happen.
A lot of comedy is situational and contextual, and you want to tell jokes that people can relate to, for the most part, and to find that common ground. Someone else has found that same common ground and made a joke out of it.
Yeah.
It's bound to happen. And so for my stance is, what was the intent? Were you out there sitting in the audience listening, taking notes? That's one thing.
Yeah.
It was a total fucking accident, different story.
Which is a big complaint about Carlos Mencia, is that he sits in the back of comedy clubs with a tape recorder
No shit.
and records these sets. And when something kills, he records it, and then he takes it home and reworks it just to fit
Well,
his
whole persona.
thing.
Yeah, he's that guy.
Yeah. But
He wants to be the funnier. He wants to be a better, edgier version of George Lopez.
Yeah, exactly.
Who he ripped off mercilessly. Most of his career.
To a point where George Lopez grabbed him by the neck
Yeah.
backstage at a show and pinned him against a wall.
Well, okay, if you're caught in the back of a comedy club with a tape recorder, it's pretty obvious you're a hack.
Well,
And
no,
you're
George,
plagiarizing.
he wasn't even. He was going like on before George Lopez, or some shit happened, and he was backstage, and George Lopez walked right up to him, grabbed by the neck, and slammed him against the wall. Like, you motherfucker, you're ripping off my bits.
Yeah.
And he did it to Ari. Was it Ari
Schaefer?
Ari Schaefer. He ripped off Ari Schaefer. Bob Lee was one of the people that was in the video. Bobby Lee, from Mad TV,
Mad TV,
and stuff. And they made him do. He did a rebuttal saying that no, I didn't really mean that. He never stole jokes. They like cornered him because Carlos Mencia discovered Bobby Lee,
Right.
and made him famous.
Yeah.
And Bobby Lee even says it. At one point, he goes, I didn't have a car, and he bought me a car. And he goes, and I got Joe. When Joe Rogan asked me that, he goes, I didn't realize the camera was on.
Yeah. He asked. I saw that he asked me. He's like, "Is this recording?" Joe Rogan's like, "What difference does it make? This is fucking real. What happened?
This is real. What happened?" And they weren't even calling him Carlos. They were calling him by his real name, Ned, whatever it was.
it is. Yeah.
And because
His name isn't really
his name's
Carlos.
Ned.
no, his name he's German and Honduran. He's
That's
not
a
even.
heady mix right there.
Yeah,
right?
he's half German and half Honduran.
Well, if you ever watched Hunting Hitler on the History Channel, you know that the Nazis ended up in Argentina.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'll back way out of this conversation. Craig has to put Brad's eyes back in his head. I'm sorry about that.
But this is, first of all, last week Mike's intro had Hitler in it.
Yeah.
It came out of nowhere. And now you just threw it. Oh, by the way, yeah, we're talking about Carlos Mencia, but did you watch about hunting Hitler?
Well, you wondered about how Honduran and German got together. Fucking Nazis.
Yep.
Anyway, I digress.
He was
Digress means go backwards, Craig.
So when he said Ned, and the funny thing is Bobby Lee says Bobby Lee's never called him Carlos. He's always called him Ned. Because that's his real name.
His name is Ned.
Yeah. But that's how it comes in. Bobby Lee comes walking in, and Joe Rogan says, "Hey, does Ned steal Joe?" He's like, "Oh yeah, all the time." And then he realized the camera was on. That's when he backs down.
Yep.
Because he even said, "I have a great amount of respect." He goes, "I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for him."
Right.
So he goes, "I had to kind of back off."
I wouldn't be there without your fame.
Yeah.
It got nothing to do with
Yes.
your talent.
If you do your talent without your fame, I wouldn't be here. So he even said it. He goes, I kind of felt like I owed him a little bit of.
You owe him only so much, though, because if you're all in the same business and you're all trying to make people laugh with your own comedy, then, owing him is one thing, okay? But the greater good is this is your intellectual property. Dave was very quick to point out that term this week. And it's true. I mean, when you say something and it gets credited to you, it becomes your intellectual property, especially if it becomes like a gimmick thing.
Yep.
So let me ask you guys this, because I don't want to go off on too many tangents, but I got to go. Who do you think is the worst offenders? I know Dave's answer because he enlightened me to this video this week.
Yeah.
But who do you think is the worst offenders? So I'll start with Dave.
So I've Amy Schumer.
Oh, God, yes.
First of all, I was never a fan of her comedy anyway. I never liked her. I never found her funny.
Yeah.
I never enjoyed her humor. But then when we started talking about this week, I decided, let me just start looking people up. And her name popped up at the top of a lot of lists. And I watched about a 25-minute video of her side by side with other comedians telling the same fucking joke verbatim that was told 2 or 3 years ahead of time.
Really?
Not just stand-up. Like, she had her shows Inside Amy Schumer.
Yep.
The skits she did were rip-offs of, like, Mad TV skits. Like,
Really?
She would change names and descriptors.
Yeah.
Like, instead of someone being black, they're Asian.
The names have been changed to protect the... Yeah.
But it was the same fucking joke, punchlines, and it was unreal. It drove me fucking... Like, I just decided, like, I hate her even more. I can't stand Amy Schumer. I don't know what it is. Like, I never found her funny, but this just kind of nailed the coffin shut for me.
See, my thing was, in the beginning, when she first came out, I kind of liked her.
See, for me,
I
like,
did too.
she looks like a
Right.
sweaty, swollen yeast infection with arms and legs.
And now that she's pregnant, not wrong.
Exactly.
Not wrong.
Yep.
I think every one of those descriptors is appropriate for her right now.
She's a
So,
cyst
but-
that needs to be popped.
See, I'll give her this, though. I'll give her this. her ability to riff on something is actually good, because I saw her. I was in New York City. I was in the Comedy Cellar. Now you go to the Comedy Cellar. They have a set lineup of comedians.
Yeah.
And I was there. David Tell was there. He was the headliner. He was the headliner, and I'm there to see him. So they bring out the first comedian. Comes out. Then they're about to bring out the second comedian, and they're like, "Hey, wait a minute, Tracy Morgan's here."
Oh my God.
So I'm like, okay, so Tracy Morgan sits down and just fucking almost makes people in the audience vomit. He is so fucking disgusting. His stand-up is so fucking gross. I was crying laughing. The guy is fucking gross. Fran was like cringing. And I'm like, really? And she's not like that. Like, she'll laugh at...
Well, she's been with you for how long?
Yeah.
She's used
and
to it.
she was like, oh my God, this guy is fucking disgusting.
She's like a thick emotional callus.
So the whole thing went... So
What did you watch before you came here? Yeast infection, cyst, and calluses.
That's season 3 of Game of Thrones. Buckle up.
So after Tracy Morgan gets off, we're like, all right, now they're going to bring this other guy on. And they said, hold on, we got someone else. And it was Amy Schumer. Now, me and Fran are right in the front row. So, we're sitting there. Yeah. And Amy Schumer comes up.
She smelled like cheese.
Yep. As soon as she came up, I was like,
way up to the mic.
Nah. As she came up, Fran was excited because Fran likes her.
Yeah. Okay.
And she got up and she riffed for about 3 or 4 minutes on what Tracy Morgan was saying.
Okay.
Like rebuttals to what he was saying, because he was doing a lot of shit about women. Like, he's like, oh, the girl's sucking your dick in the cum rope. Fuck, right? I mean, oh no, he was disgusting, right? And she was like, I don't know about that cum rope, right? That was like
the girl got like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's all triggers, though.
She was hilarious, so she can riff. She can do it.
But so I disagree, though. I mean, I've seen her do it too. But now I'm wondering if all she was finding was trigger words that brought her back to other people's jokes. Because this video is not, it's not 6.5 minutes. It's 26.5 minutes.
And those are just
verbatim
clips.
Yeah.
They're not even, that's not the whole story.
Yeah. But they highlighted what were absolutely the best examples of what made Amy Schumer an absolute hack.
Yeah.
And what really upset me about it was I always thought she was really quick.
I did too.
But now, because you and I have joked about, getting on stage, and I've done it a couple times and whatever, but, we don't call ourselves comedians.
No.
Because there's an art to it. And one of the things about it is you do need trigger words, because if somebody in the audience heckles you, you need to be able to
come back. Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if now all that quickness and sharpness that I thought I saw in Amy Schumer actually was just her using other people's jokes to respond to very obvious situations.
Yep.
Yeah, because she gets filthy in her routine. So Tracy Morgan talking about a fucking jizz rope coming off of some guy's dick isn't exactly a stretch for her.
No.
That's something that she covers quite often. She gets very frank and very brutal about sexual things.
Yeah.
And that's what she comes across as, this sweet-eyed, innocent girl, and then she comes out and says these atrocious things, and that's always been her hook. So I don't know if it's killed my enjoyment of Amy Schumer, because I still laugh at the things she says.
No, yeah.
But should she still have the ability to say these things if she's been caught so obviously?
Red-handed, like blatant.
I mean, we're actually going to put the link on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to do it this time. You have to see this.
You have
video.
to see it, yeah.
And you probably have already, because you're probably looking for plagiarism from everything we say every week anyway. All right, but let's get back on point here. One of the things that we're being critical.
Yeah, we
We're
are.
being hypercritical.
We are.
No, we're not professional comedians.
We're not even close to it. And we like to be critical of a lot of things that go on in the world, but the reality is we kind of envision ourselves possibly entering that space. Let's be real. Okay, that's kind of what we're doing here.
We're funny. We have our moments. We're in that realm. I would agree.
And I think we've probably feel like we've earned the right to criticize. But the truth of the matter is, this is not something that's just happening with modern comedians.
No.
This is something that goes back a few years.
Forever.
I mentioned him in the intro. Milton Berle.
Yep.
Considered by many to be a godfather of comedy. Okay, apparently the riff on him was that there was never a joke he never stole.
Yeah.
You know?
Who was
Bob
it?
Hope.
Yeah, Bob Hope.
Bob Hope said that he never heard a joke he didn't steal.
Yeah.
That was the quote. Beautifully
Yeah.
done. And I admire you for getting that out right.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's been a struggle tonight.
Yeah.
The folks can't see the cue card that Fran wrote in crayon that he's reading right now.
Yep.
She had to write it with her left hand just to get him to understand it.
But if you think about it, Milton Berle goes back to the 50s, if I'm not mistaken.
Earlier.
Earlier. So we're talking about well before widespread television.
Yes.
They're relying on radio for people who had it. So we're not talking the social media exposure we have now.
Those are people that were in clubs, vaudeville,
Yeah.
doing clubs in New York City, L.A., places like that.
And if I'm not mistaken, Milton Berle got into a little burlesque too, right?
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was a consummate entertainer.
Yeah. That's a good way to phrase it.
The truth is, Milton Berle, in addition to having apparently had a 4-foot cock.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, the guy apparently had a gigantic fucking crank.
Yep.
So I give him credit for that.
But,
That's original.
But even a dick with an elbow is not enough of a reason to do this.
So his name should have been Milton Unfurl.
I was just going to go with Milton Burley, but all right, that's fine. I think it's funny, though, because back then you probably thought you were getting away with something. Because they're saying, well, if they were here tonight, they weren't at Bob Hope's show.
Yeah.
They were at somebody's show. Even when they were all working Vegas together, they probably figured there wasn't a whole lot of cross-pollination.
They were in a different club.
So let me pose this question. Are we being too critical? If this was going on back then when you literally needed a telegraph to get a joke across the nation in an era of social media where it's so easy to put something out there, maybe it's not the comedian's fault. Now, I'm not talking Amy Schumer. I think what she's doing is blatant.
Yeah.
And it still disappoints me to this day. Ever since you shared that video, it's the second worst thing you've ever done to me. First being on the show.
And here I am in your garage.
That's right. That's right. He knows where I live now. I really wonder, though, if maybe now it's just there's so much saturation of content and so much proliferation of comedy out there, everybody fancying themselves a comedian on Twitter, then maybe there's no hope for having an original thought anymore.
Yeah.
And they're more victims than they are antagonists. I don't know.
Say that. I mean, even like Dane Cook.
Ugh.
Dane Cook is a fucking thief, and he did it. And Dane Cook's popularity was before. I mean, the internet was around, but it wasn't. It wasn't before, but the internet was around, but it wasn't so prominent. And he was just going to colleges. He was college age.
He was the frat
going to
guy.
college. He was the frat guy going to colleges and being zany and funny and telling other people's jokes just zany and more funny.
I wish everybody could see Craig's jazz hands when he says zany.
Yeah. No, but that's what he was doing. He was just putting his physical comedy into
He just
a
made it
routine.
louder.
Yeah, he made
just
it
yells
louder.
a lot.
Yeah,
Oh.
he made it louder and more physical than the original comedian that told the joke. That's why he's not really around anymore.
No, he got to the height of his stand-up popularity when it was Madison Square Garden, right? Didn't he?
Incredible self-promoter.
Yeah.
Incredible self-promoter.
So he did Madison Square Garden, sold it out. After that, he made like 2, maybe 3 movies.
Yeah.
And then it's been 12 years since you've heard his fucking name.
yeah.
Because there's no substance behind what he
No.
he
And
offered.
there's 2 major reasons for that. One of them is he wasn't college age when he claimed to be.
Yeah.
He's older than us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he's older than you.
Okay.
Fuck you.
Oh, sorry. No.
Which also makes him older than you.
Yeah, that's
Jake.
true. As I said it, I was like, maybe he won't catch that. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah. Math hour with Dave will be back in a minute. But on top of that, Dane Cook also has a terrible reputation. He's dating an 18-year-old right now.
Yeah.
And he's always dated 18-year-olds.
Yeah, he's always been a scumbag.
His most recent girlfriend just turned 18, and I don't believe they met on her birthday.
No.
So I feel like Dane Cook has done everything possible to alienate himself. Plus, he was also auditioning for all the same roles that Ryan Reynolds got.
Yeah.
All right. And so Dane Cook kind of painted himself into a corner, but it doesn't change the fact, staying on topic, he's a hack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, his jokes were direct lifts.
Yep.
And yeah, just because you say them louder and scream the punchline doesn't change the fact that it was not an original thought. And he also transitioned from the previous joke and the next joke very similarly to other comedians. He really, there was like a 45-minute set that he did for HBO or one of those networks. They estimate that he probably wrote maybe 15 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I forget where I read that. So don't
And what's
cite
funny
me
is
on that, but-
you say that he went for all the same roles as Ryan Reynolds, which Ryan Reynolds is funny just because he's funny. He's just a funny guy.
Yeah.
He's not, he's not. I don't want to say original. Well, yeah, he's
He's-
original. He's
he's
off
not
the
a
cuff.
ri-
He's
he's not
off
a
the
writer.
cuff. He's an off the cuff funny guy.
Yeah.
He's just an all around funny guy.
He's the guy that can sit around and we use the term riff a lot, but he's the guy, he's funny
Yeah.
in situations without any planning or preparation. He can just be funny on
And he can also take a script and take lines that aren't funny and maybe deliver them
And deliver him funny.
Yeah.
Okay, that movie he made, Van Wilder, not a good movie.
No.
Okay.
He was awesome.
But he was fantastic
Yeah.
in it because he kind of made the role his own. He said, you know what, I'm older than anybody in college anyway. What would I do if I was in college? And he kind of owned it.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool about Ryan Reynolds. Dane Cook was actually in a movie with Ryan Reynolds called Waiting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a terrible movie.
Terrible movie.
But the point is that to have the two of them in the same movie, doing the same kind of scene chewing, Ryan Reynolds won every time. Of
course.
Yeah.
Because I think Dane Cook is just not a funny guy. I think somebody thought he was funny and he said, I'm going to promote myself until people believe me.
That's what I said. He's the most unbelievable self promoter.
Yes.
That's why he was at Madison Square Garden. I said, no, but that's why he was at Madison Square Garden.
We're going to blame that one on the echo
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
studio.
That was the rain.
Yeah. But that's what he did. And he just started doing college performances. Bang.
Yeah.
And hitting them. And everybody, like I said, he's wearing the leather bracelet
Yeah.
and doing all this shit and acting. Everybody thought he was them.
He was them.
He was them.
And you know what's funny is there's a common thread between all these people we've talked about.
That connect. That
Carlos
little bit of.
Mencia. We'll start with Milton Berle. Milton Berle, Carlos Mencia, Amy Schumer, Dane Cook, whoever else you want to throw in there. They're all good at being on stage and putting on a show. They're
Yep.
good entertainers.
Yeah.
Now, is the material original? Probably not.
Probably not.
That's what we're talking about.
Well-
but they're good at like you said, promoting. That's a great way to put it.
There
And
was
that's kind of why they're successful for a time.
There's a great. Well, I don't want to say great, but there's one thing that a person shouts from the crowd. When Joe Rogan confronted Carlos Mencia.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big misconception as well.
It was
It was flipped. Carlos Mencia walked up on stage because Joe Rogan was introducing another comic, and he said something about Carlos Mencia, and he called him Carlos Menstelia. Right? And Carlos Mencia went up there on stage, probably not really realizing what he's walking into, because Joe Rogan would annihilate.
Joe Rogan knows his shit. First of all, Joe Rogan's very funny. He knows his shit. Now he's a fucking like mixed martial arts professional.
he was a mixed martial arts professional before he was a comic.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This guy stood
No.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for fucking ever.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
He was teaching an accredited course at 20 years old.
I didn't see. The first time my first exposure to Joe Rogan was News Radio, which was
Yeah,
one of my favorite.
By that time,
TV shows.
By
ever.
that time, he would have beat half of the people in
Anyway,
the UFC.
we'll get off. But he's been one of the biggest outspoken comics against.
And I got a problem with Joe Rogan.
But he's never.
of course you do.
He's never been physical. That's the thing. Is he knows he can beat these people up, and he's not.
Well, it's
but
not
he's
a
never.
matter of beating him up. It's
but-
about showing him up.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference. But
But-
I got a problem with Joe Rogan, and I'm going to cut you off because I haven't done it yet tonight, and I got to do it.
It wouldn't be a show without Brad cutting us off.
That's right. That's right. And I'm glad Dave's here to point that out again. I really think that Joe Rogan is kind of appointed himself as the comedy police. Dating back to when he was a judge on the opening rounds of Last Comic Standing, he called out a comedian named Ant
Yeah.
for stealing a joke from a movie called Boiler Room, which is a great movie.
Yeah.
Okay, and the thing is, he stole a punchline from there, and it was a pretty obvious lift because
Yeah.
he delivered it the exact same way.
Yeah.
And his homosexual comic, and he delivered it the same way the homosexual in the movie did. Now, the problem I have with Joe Rogan is if you actually look at Joe Rogan's, he's the best podcaster in the world.
Yep.
We can't argue that.
No.
He's very funny on his podcast. He's the guy Craig just described. He's a funny guy to hang out
He
with.
is.
He's not a good stand-up comic.
No.
I've seen some of it. I'll say this. I've seen some of it. Some of it is funny. Some of it isn't. I've watched, and I like some of it I drag through. I'm like, Some stuff he says he hits on the head and it's funny. But that doesn't mean to say he's done it. He's got where he is, and he started out as a comic. So he got where he was by starting out as a stand-up
Doesn't make
comic.
him a good one.
No, it doesn't.
There's plenty
It
of
doesn't.
comedians out there that are not funny that continue to tour because other people find them funny.
No,
people
exactly.
across every rectangular state in this country
But-
think that Jay Leno's funny.
Jay Leno's the worst.
Jay
I can't
Leno's one
stand
of the
him.
worst comedy murderers
I
out.
fucking can't stand him.
He's not a comic, is he?
Yeah,
No,
he was.
God, he's
Jay Leno
the
was a
worst.
comic.
Yeah, he was. He was a stand-up comic. He's horrible.
He owned the Comedy Store
So-
for years.
But
in
does,
LA.
does Joe Rogan have to be the best, most successful comic
No,
to
no.
criticize other
No, but what I'm saying
comics?
is,
Well, we're doing it now, so the answer is no.
No,
to that.
no, he doesn't.
but
yeah.
that doesn't make him wrong. But it
Yeah.
doesn't make his.
I don't saying he's wrong, but I feel like he's leveraged his position as a celebrity in other roles. He's gotten acting jobs.
Yep.
He's got this UFC thing.
Yes.
All right. And now he's got this podcast, which is taking over the world, and I enjoy it very much.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
good.
The Joe Rogan
It's
Experience
good.
is a phenomenal podcast, and
Phenomenal.
everybody should listen to it.
It's great.
But he's actually got strength as an intelligent guy, a great interviewer, and somebody who can respond to people. I don't feel like that necessarily gives him the authority as the comedy police.
No.
And he called out people that deserve to be called out, so he's not wrong. But after a while now, you're expecting Joe Rogan to show up at every show. Where
He's
you might have
actually
heard of
he's
Joe.
actually stopped doing it. He's not being involved in it anymore. He kind of stopped after that.
Well, because
But
he's
what-
losing his peers.
Well, what I was getting at was there was one person in the crowd that yelled out when he said, "You told that joke. That was Ari Schaefer's joke."
Yeah.
Yes.
And he goes, "So what?" Carlos Mencia, and a woman in the crowd yells out, "He made it better."
Ooh.
And
Meaning Mencia made Schaefer's joke better.
yes,
Okay.
which okay, he made it better, but for who? It's subjective. He made it better for you because when she I'm not saying when she yelled it out, she had an accent.
Racist.
Yes. And I'm not trying. No, I'm not trying to be.
No,
racist.
well, listen.
She had a distinct Latino accent.
So let's put out. Carlos Mencia
So
plays to a
she-
Latino crowd.
Yes,
And she was
So-
probably part of that
well,
crowd based
that's-
on her accent.
Well, that's what I'm
the
saying.
fact. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. So when she yelled out, "He made it better," Ari Schaefer's not a fucking Mexican comic.
No, he's a 6'2" Jewish guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
when
it's Shafir, by the way.
what?
I'm sorry. He's a 6'2" Islamic guy.
Yeah. See, yeah.
Shafir.
Shafir-
That was
is
it.
it Shafir?
It's Ari Shafir.
But
Damn it.
when Carlos Mencia said it and he changed it and he made it a Latino joke, it was the same joke,
Yes.
but he made it a Latino joke. Of course, it's going to strike her.
It's more
funnier.
relatable to that
It's
audience.
more relatable to her, So by throwing Beaner in front of it or whatever the fuck he did, that's what he did. That's all he did.
Yeah.
Everything was Beaner, and he would yell.
So Joe Rogan jumped up, did that, and you mentioned he's not doing that anymore. He's kind of
No,
backed
he's
away.
kind of backed away
Maybe
from
he
it.
shouldn't be the face of the
No.
comedy police.
He
He's
just
not
started
wrong.
calling people out because what it was he was friends with Ari Shafir. They were all friends. These, they were a group of guys that were started out comedy together, and they were friends. And then they're noticing that this guy is literally sitting in the back of the room with the tape recorder, recording
Well, that's
their thing.
different.
And then now he's the biggest thing in the world.
Sure. Yeah,
You know?
that's blatant stealing. Now,
Yeah.
I think where Brad may have been starting to go is we're right now 3 guys, usually sometimes 4 guys, in a garage or a basement talking about current events. We're making jokes in situations and we're kind of bouncing
Yeah.
off each other. There's a high percentage that we're making jokes that someone else is making either right now or just made recently.
Inadvertently.
And that's-
Inadvertently.
and
Yes.
that's going to happen.
It's gonna happen.
Well, with the
can't-
proliferation of podcasts out there and everybody who has a microphone thinking they have a voice. And, we're no different. We're not
Nope.
putting ourselves
No.
above anybody.
No.
Okay, most podcasts last 5 episodes. We've done it 85. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yep.
But the truth of the matter is there's nothing original out there. So it's not a question of should he be the comedy police anymore. It's a question of, with all of the social media and all of the sharing and all of the common thoughts about some very obvious things, Donald Trump is a fucking comedy target. So it's real easy to make the obvious jokes there. What do comedians have to do to still be considered original? I don't know if there's an answer to that, and I don't know if they even need to anymore. If there's a group of people in front of you,
and you're making them laugh,
and they feel like they had a good night out, you're doing your job. I'm writing things for a website about a very specific niche, and I'm probably writing the same things competing companies are writing. Does that make me a hack? I didn't know they were writing it. I'm just doing my best to not do that. I don't know. I started out this episode by saying we got to call people on this. And as we've talked about it, I'm starting to shift my perspective a little bit because we've pointed out all the ways that this can happen.
There's a lot of ways that it can happen. Like I've done it. You've done it. It's some of it is subconscious. Because
Dave, you had no excuse. You just started.
Yeah, you just started.
You really have no excuse.
You fucking hack.
Yeah. If you could spell hack, I'd be upset.
And Mike's never done it because he doesn't watch anything relevant.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's a lot of it is some kind. If you lay out a joke and just change a few words, that's wrong. But if you're like, hey, like I said, that it was only a few weeks ago. Brad had said something, and my rebuttal was so fast to it because it was that situation. It wasn't even a joke. It was more of a name or something. I forgot what it was. I wish I could go back and find out what it was, but what it was. And then Brad was like, "Dude, that was hilarious," and I said, "Yeah, it was," and it wasn't me. I didn't write that. Yeah. I was like, that wasn't, and I said it to you right away.
You said it
I said, no.
Wait, you didn't say it to the listeners. Hack.
No.
I remember what it was, actually.
But at the time, I didn't. I don't. Do you?
Yeah, you said someone looked like a burnt match.
Yes.
That's
what it was. That's what it was. And I said it because I said it at the end of the show. I said, wow, it just struck me.
You said that to all of us. You're like, that wasn't me. That was totally whoever it was. I can't remember.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You look like a struck match.
And it's a great line, it was. And it was appropriate for our needs.
Our needs.
And in the context of the show, it made sense.
Yep.
And what happens is you have to draw inspiration from somewhere, right? So we all enjoy certain comics and things. We've talked about people.
It was an insult. It wasn't a joke. I didn't lay out a joke for it. It was actually an insult.
But we've referred to we've referred to other comics that we enjoy. We talk about Jim Norton a lot.
Yes.
He's one of those comics. You mentioned Dave Attell earlier, who's someone who I've enjoyed for years.
One of my favorites.
So, but there are comics that we're drawn to that you're going to draw inspiration from.
Yes.
Someone mentioned Ray Romano. Like he did a lot of comedy about his family and kids.
Yeah.
And things.
Ray Romano's hilarious.
I will look at that now, having a family, and think that's kind of an interesting take. Like, are there things about my kids and my family that could be funny? So, in that sense, drawing some inspiration from someone else's approach is one thing, but actually taking a joke that they told and changing names and the relationships, that's stealing. That's different. Now, we've all done things inadvertently, I'm sure. I reference a lot of movies and TV shows when I...
We have stolen lines from so many shows.
It was Greg Giraldo.
That's right.
Called Flavor Flav. You look like a struck match at the roast.
That's right.
But Mike,
anything else from last week you want to reference? Let's just get it out now.
No. What I'm saying is the joke that I stole that time. But the funny thing was Mike's beard was all fucked up.
Yep.
And out, and he did look like a struck match. Yeah. So that's why I couldn't hold it back.
Honestly, I don't think there's a judge in the union that would ever look at Mike and not agree with your assessment that he looked like a struck match.
No. And the cool thing is Greg Giraldo's dead, so I didn't have to worry about getting sued.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the estate of Greg Giraldo is worth a bag of cocaine.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding. I love that
no.
guy.
Not as useful as Artie Lang's nose now.
Greg Giraldo was fucking a genius.
And I don't think he ever lifted anything.
Probably not.
I would say not. But
that guy was so original and hilarious.
But we can't talk about what we didn't do. Let's talk about what we have done. All right, let's think about some of the moments on this show. Now, Dave, you've had an inordinate amount of them since you've joined.
Yes.
So let's lead with you. Is there any times on the show where not only did you feel like maybe you lifted a joke or some inspiration, but also maybe times where you feel like you were just being a hack? Because I've got thousands.
Yeah,
Thousands.
Let's refer to episode 68 when I first appeared through right now.
We've done 17 episodes with you, man. You're not the new guy anymore.
Some quick math, man. That Maryland degree.
Blue crabs.
Mason Dixon exists.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, you went to South Carolina
I
to
know.
get a shitty education. You went a lot further than I did.
I went to school when they were still flying the stars and bars up on their fucking state house. The Confederate flag was still above the South Carolina State House.
What are you
when I was
talking
there.
about? You had a black population. It was called the Clemson Tigers.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, 3 of them got drafted today.
They're like the flying tigers in World War II.
So I've I'm not as an avid. I think Brad just died. So no, I'm not as avid a comedy fan as you two. I don't watch as much stand up. So I don't know if I've ever blatantly lifted anything, but a lot of I've noticed there are times where I think of something that can be funny.
Yeah.
And I can't get it in the moment where it should fit. So I wait, and a little later I try to plug it in. And it's not as funny as it should be. It's a little forced.
It's timing.
Timing's a big thing.
Timing's the biggest thing in comedy.
So I do that a lot. I've tried to work on it. The other thing I do a lot is I make references back to movies and shows.
Yes.
So I rely on, I guess, analogies to kind of tell the punchline for me.
Yes.
Right? And so in that sense, I'm using something that's already been created to make a point for me.
Yep.
But I'm putting it in a situation. So I don't know. That's probably on the fence. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but it's not because you.
I'm not stealing it, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I'm using someone else's material or content to make my point.
to make your point. And
So I do that a lot. And Brad jokes about the vast knowledge of movies and things that I reference.
Yep.
Like that happens.
You do
Yeah.
make some deep references.
He does. He does.
Now, I work with a guy who lives in Texas. His name is Cody. He's got.
Of course it is.
Yeah, right. But at least his name is actually.
I can't wait to hear your next story about Buck.
So Cody and I used to have this little competition, right? We would teach classes, and we would try to see how many movie references we could work into a lecture or a lesson without people catching it really quick.
Yeah.
It's just a way for us to entertain
Yeah,
ourselves
of
while we do the
course.
same shit over and over. So that kind of comes from there. I've been doing that for like 7 or 8 years. But yeah, I use a lot of movies and things to kind of make
What's
my
your best
points.
example?
We used to do a lot of like Anchorman jokes and just like lines
Yep.
from movies we try to fit in places. in
Tell one of your
class.
students, go back to your home on Whore Island.
But like, I would also teeter on like making inappropriate jokes at work. A lot of what we do here to make each other laugh is situational.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bounce off of
Exactly.
what Craig said or Brad said or what Mike didn't do or say, and just go from there to make things funny. So
Yeah, exactly.
I do the same thing when I'm at work, and sometimes I find it hard to resist. You know, but for me, I actually a few weeks ago, actually I think it was last week, we were talking about Aerosmith, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it was
And I
last
said
week.
that Steven Tyler looks like he should be busy making the Hocus Pocus sequel.
Yeah.
When I heard that, I was like, I think I saw a meme of that. Someone actually cut and pasted his face
It might have been.
into next to like the Hocus Pocus.
Oh my
crew.
God, you're right. I remember not
I
laughing
thi-
at that one too.
Oh, damn it. He said with no emotion in his voice.
Get out of my house.
So I'm guilty of using a lot of other content to make my point, to
Yeah.
help my punchline. I guess is
No,
where
and
usually I tend to fall.
It happens, but I mean, so I think what we've discovered is there's a fine line between plagiarism and a subconscious gathering of a joke. Not gathering, but like
Parallel thinking was the
parallel
formal
thinking.
term.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Plagiarism is Amy Schumer.
Yeah.
You know, she did it blatantly.
Milton Berle is
Milton Berle.
Yeah.
Milton Berle. Robin Williams, they said he admitted to it.
He did.
And he said, and a lot of things was, because he was always one of those guys that went on stage and just riffed. And he would have a moment of slack and use somebody else. And he'd fill it in with somebody else's stuff to keep
I wish we had an example, though.
Yeah, I wish I
can't
did.
remember much of his
I
stand-up.
didn't find anything reading on this that he mentioned anything specific, but he said
No.
it was more early in his career where he
Yeah.
was trying to be a comic more than just who he was, just kind of fucking go bananas on stage.
He was like, oh shit, I'm still waiting for my dealer to bring that other 8-ball.
Yeah. You can only say nanu so many times, right? And people laugh at
Oh
it.
my God, he was. There were times where he was so painful to watch.
Yeah.
I don't even remember many of his routines. I remember when he was smart, he was really smart.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I felt like that was him. And then when you see the acting roles that he took on, where he was calm.
He was an incredible actor.
Yeah, and I feel like comedians usually are the best actors because they say that anybody can cry on cue. But it takes somebody special to command comedy because if you can control laughter, then you can control every other emotion.
Yep.
And that's why you see a Tom Hanks be the
Yes.
actor that he is.
Yep.
He started out on Bosom Buddies.
Bosom Buddies.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, and you got Robin Williams playing an alien that was in the 50s and then somehow in Colorado in the 70s. I don't know how that worked out either. You know, and there were so many different vehicles that they could have used. And, you know, so comedy to me, I think, is the hardest emotion to capture. And I feel like it's also when you do own it, it's easy to like just feed off of everybody else.
Sure.
You know, and we've all guilty of it here. I've ripped off Carlin here. I've said it 3 times tonight, but I have ripped off George Carlin, my absolute biggest hero ever, on this show so many goddamn times to the point where I want to go to his grave and apologize.
Well, there's times you've always said, though, a lot of times you've always said, George Collins said it best, and then you repeat the line.
That's after I was realizing I was ripping him off.
Well, so you're not.
But that's we go back to the intent.
Yeah.
You recognize it, you acknowledge it, and all right, we'll move on.
Yeah.
And by no means am I ever putting myself on a level of
No,
that. Please
no,
know
no,
that.
Well, it's good because nobody else is either. Yeah.
That's good. 17 episodes was a good run, Dave. It was a good run. All right, so let's kind of move this ahead and start wrapping things up. Should this be a legally driven thing? I think because things are now out there in writing and there are timestamps and dates put on things, I think you're going to start seeing more legal ramifications.
Yeah.
Thanks to things like Twitter and Facebook and
Yep.
all that. Dave, what do you need?
I need a beer.
Okay.
Let's get
Craig wasn't getting my subtle hint of me slapping his elbow.
I'm watching.
Well, I've been used to you slapping the table all day.
I'm sorry.
Just watching Dave look like a T-Rex on his back trying to get.
Oh, shit. But no, I mean, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. All the way around. I mean, I hope everybody gets that judge from Rhode Island that gives out the speeding tickets.
That's amazing. Judge Caprio.
Go ahead. You're all set. Don't worry about it.
So you're saying that we should take a soft stance on this?
No, I mean, it depends. Blatant stuff, like the Amy Schumer thing is fucking blatant. And that's just wrong.
That's easy to prove.
I mean, a subconscious, if you're laying out 20 minutes of original material and all of a sudden one of your jokes sounds like somebody else's, maybe let it go because it may fit in with what they were saying before, and it was a natural progression because it happens. It's just one of those things. I guess let that go, but
where's the line? There's a
yeah.
legality thing here.
Yeah.
We're talking about people taking. The whole premise here was Conan O'Brien, and he's being sued.
But should he be being sued or should his writers be?
It's his
Because
name
he's not
on the
writing
show.
those. He's not writing those fucking jokes.
It's his show.
It's his show, but still.
Yeah, his name makes the headline. It's his show, and that's what gets.
He ultimately delivers.
But that's why I
it
love
in
people
his
like
voice.
Doug Stanhope. Doug Stanhope is not ripping anybody off, and nobody's ripping him off because he's just an enigma. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys.
There's some people that are just so out there that, like Mitch Hedberg was one of those guys that you will never replicate.
Right,
but he was doing the same. But he was doing the same routine as Stephen Wright.
Thank you.
But
okay, that's fair.
But he never copied Stephen Wright.
He also did it faster.
He did it faster, and all he did was take the same route as Stephen Wright. Stephen Wright, to me, is a genius. And Mitch Hedberg, to me, is just as much as a genius. They didn't, there was never a clash. Those are jokes you can't retell.
No.
All right, but let me throw two more names at you. George Carlin.
Yes.
And Louis Black.
Ooh. George Carlin, by far, was... Well, I don't know. How long has Louis Black been doing comedy?
Almost as long.
Almost as
Louis
long.
Black, not a young man.
Yeah, no, I know
he got a late jump into doing stand-up, but he it wasn't
all
a
he did was
longevity thing.
he just slapped an angrier, more grit on it than what.
I don't know. Listen to some old Carlin and tell
well,
me.
Yeah,
more
no.
Grit. I gotta wonder though. Taking the political angle and running with it. And being so outspoken, and then every now and then throwing in a dick joke just to keep things light.
Yeah.
And then tying it back into whoever's in office. Political comedy will always be there.
It's always been there.
And know what's funny? It'll always be there, and it'll always rehash because it's always the same thing. Good, bad,
but
good,
when W
bad.
was in office,
all
right, you had Carlin riffing on W up until the end.
Yep.
And then you had Louis Black doing the same thing. I'm sure they covered the same ground because it was the same things that were driving them. So, what do you say about those two? Was there any legal recourse there saying that you're treading the same water? But basically, we could do this all night.
Yeah, exactly.
We can.
I just want to know what's the line.
My personal thought is I think it's probably a similar line to what you see in music. We referenced it earlier where there are laws in place that are, from what we can tell as the general public, rarely enforced.
Yep.
You rarely hear about copyright infringement when it comes to music. The laws are there. I bet if you applied it to every single piece of music that's out there now, you'd have a lot more legal precedence.
Yeah.
But it only happens when it's big names, big songs, and a lot of money involved. I think if you have the same foundation for comedy, you end up with the same results. Because we talk about these other comics ripping people off. There could be some little local comic telling fucking amazing jokes.
Yeah.
He could be fucking killing it at the Comedy Connection down in East Providence every night, and some big name comes in for 2 nights, sees his jokes, takes him and rips him off nationally. No one ever hears about Derek Furtado. So
that's what happens. That's the big thing.
So I guess my point is if you have the laws in place, there is recourse and a way for these local comics and I hate to use the term no names to kind of
they're not nationally known as these other people.
It's there, but I don't think you'll see it as often. But the foundation's there for them to build on it if they need.
The thing is, there's a lot of stand-up comics that just fail and give up after a couple of years.
Yeah.
So they might be hilarious, and some big name comes through, and the guy opens up for him, or not even open. He might be there on the night before. And that guy hears it and says, you know what? Nobody knows who this fucking guy is. I'm going to take it. And if they do, who's going to say, he's like, no, fuck you. I made this. Joke. That was you stole it from me.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I think when it comes to TV, which was, the original idea here, I think the joke writers for guys like Conan O'Brien, they have a little more legal responsibility.
Yes.
I think they need to be doing their homework.
There should be a research guy there sitting there saying,
and I'm pretty sure that's what their job is.
Yeah,
they need to find out.
That's been done.
Yeah, and don't do it because. But here's the trick, and I'm going to throw one more curveball at you. How much does delivery have to do with intellectual property? We all know what Mitch Hedberg sounds like. We all know what George Carlin sounded like. We all know what John Mulaney sounds like.
If what's his name came out and did it, Sam Kinison.
Exactly. Okay, how much of the delivery and the voice and the brand? I'm going to use the term. Okay, it's a marketing
brand.
thing,
It is
but
a
it's
brand.
a brand.
It's a brand.
Okay, you know, how on brand? Even Conan, who's about as benign a comic as you
Yeah.
can see, but
Has a
he's
brand.
But you know when you're hearing Conan
But
O'Brien.
you know exactly. You know when you hear Bill Burr.
Yeah.
You know when you're hearing Jim Norton.
I think that's what Dane Cook thought he was doing. By screaming everything, I think Dane Cook thought he was creating a personal brand.
Yeah.
It failed. You know, like New Coke. You know, it was
Ultimately,
yeah.
popular for a year. Shit happened.
Well,
Crystal
'cause
Pepsi.
It was funny to see him. It was funny to see him crouch down and flail his arms around and be an idiot for a minute.
Except that
Then
it
doesn't-
wasn't.
But it wasn't exactly. But it wasn't, and it went away fast. You know,
There's a
it's like-
reason why
yeah.
it went away fast. He ran out of stuff to do.
And what do comedians, when they fill out their taxes every year, what do they call themselves? They call themselves entertainers or performers.
Yes.
Okay, so your performance is as much the brand as the jokes you're telling. So I almost wonder now, I mean, we're getting into a much bigger conversation and we're not capable of doing that on the show tonight. But I almost wonder now if we're really getting on people for the wrong things. Maybe it shouldn't be about the jokes you're telling or the things you're reading on Twitter that is the intellectual property, but the way in which you're
How you
delivering.
The delivery.
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah,
It's gotta be a little bit of both.
It's got to be.
At some point,
tough.
the topics are going to be, Brad, you mentioned it, George W. Bush was, even our current president, right? Big targets.
Oh, holy shit!
Big, right? So,
Could then
so
be a bigger target.
pick one of those, pick any president for that matter. They are the natural, easy target.
Yes.
Every single, I don't say every single, most comics, late night shows, whoever, are going to use them in a punchline at some point. And it's probably going to be a similar punchline to someone else you heard within the last few days.
Exactly.
It's going to happen. In those cases, your delivery is going to set you apart from those other comics. Now, there are those folks that go so way out of the box. We mentioned John Mulaney, right? Stephen
Yes.
Wright, Mitch Hedberg. So far out of the box, like, holy, I never fucking thought of that.
The
That's
original
fucking
dudes,
amazing.
Yeah.
Right? That sets them apart. But at some point, when you're just, if your delivery doesn't set you apart from people, then you fall on the content. And if it's the same, what are you really doing? Just because you can say something more animated doesn't make you funny.
Doesn't make you funnier. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've caught this over the course of 85 episodes, but I'm really good at posing questions that have no answers.
Yes.
And that's,
But it's a discussion. There's no definitive answer.
There is.
I get that.
There is no. It's a tough answer, and it takes more than us to. There's a tougher question. Is we're not going to answer it.
well, I think
You know
it's,
what I mean?
and that's why I think the journey is all the fun, just like watching the Avengers. Okay, I feel like the journey is where the excitement really happens. I don't care if you spoil the ending. I don't care if you're giving me the same punchline, but deliver it in a way that makes me laugh. For the first time in the history of this show, I think I've changed my tune a bit as a result of this conversation.
Over the course of the show.
I've watched it happen. When I wrote the outline, I was real angry, and I was coming up with all the legal recourse because there was so much printed out there, and there's so much documentation. When you post something on Twitter and you're a celebrity and you post it, it's out there, and you've got 18,000 likes and shares and all these other things. It's clear that you made that joke, but who's to say some other guy didn't? You know, and so I came in with that attitude. Now I'm coming out of it going, well, you know, you can't be everywhere at all times, and you can't be everything to all people. So I'm wondering now if I've been a little too critical. Now, Amy Schumer,
blatant.
okay,
It's blatant.
It was obnoxious, and I look at Dane Cook, and he's a hack because he's not funny.
Yeah.
But ultimately, am I going to knock a guy like? And let's think of some of the names we've got here.
Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
Who owned it. But I mean, even if he didn't, okay, he talked about KFC's Famous Bowls, which was a very funny routine based on something that was popular. Whether or not he actually stole the premise from Jim Gaffigan, I don't know if they were ever going to be looked at in the same way.
Well,
nobody at this table knew that the comparison had been made.
I wouldn't have made the comparison.
Well, that's the thing. It's a premise of the joke. There's a premise to it, and the joke is going to probably end up in the same spot.
Louis C.K. had the best line, though. And I got to say this. All right, Louis.
He did. Louis
'Cause
C.K. He was blatantly ripped off
by Dane Cook.
by Dane Cook.
Okay, but Louis
Blatantly ripped off.
Okay, there were so many visual and audio references to the two routines side by side. It was ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Okay, Dane Cook is a hack.
It was almost verbatim.
But Louis C.K., who we've trashed on this show for being a pig,
Yeah.
okay, it doesn't change the fact he's brilliant stand-up comic.
He's a funny pig.
He's a funny motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he had the quote of all quotes. He goes, "I'm not going to do anything about this. I'm not going to court over a bit called itchy asshole."
Brilliant. That's a stand-up routine right there.
And so for that, I give Louis the first amount of credit I've given him in a long time.
Yeah, in a long time. Yeah.
Ironically, that was the name of Mike's first band, Itchy Asshole.
Yeah. That's right. But you know what? We've been talking about people. Let's do some of our own original comedy.
Oh, all right, I gotta go.
You know? No. We decided to come up with something a little different. You know, we do the roundup every once in a while.
Every so often.
And then I thought to myself, I made a joke this week on a pretty sad story.
In every other walk of life, this is a sad story. But when you get to needless to say, it's a joke. It's fodder for
all I did was I looked
sick
at
minds.
I looked at the bright side of it. There's got to be a bright side to this horrible story. There has to be a bright side.
Needless to silver linings.
Yes.
I love it.
Right? So we're gonna call it to match the roundup. It's not gonna be an every week thing, just like we do. But we're gonna call this one the bright side. So I found this article, and I want us all to find the bright side of it.
Can you please read the headline?
Please.
I'm begging you.
It's the most important part of this on the bright side.
Brazil's president says 1,000 penises amputated every year due to bad hygiene.
Awesome.
Now, there's a bright side to this.
And we're just the guys to find out.
Yes. And I'll start off.
Please do. It's your segment, after all.
The transgender bathroom sign company just got some more business.
I have to say, there's a great counterbalance here because for every dirty penis that gets lopped off, Brazil's vagina cleanliness rates are on the rise.
All the penile surgeons in Brazil are getting bonuses this year.
And there's other people not getting bonuses.
Craig, find some more silver linings.
Sales for Porsche are up. They sold 1,000 new cars last year.
Which is funny because women's eyeglasses sales are down.
Yeah.
I just think it's awesome that Brazilian Ken dolls are now anatomically correct.
Right? I'm just happy that Paulo will no longer be referred to as Stank Crank.
Good for Paulo.
There'll be a new Snapchat filter in the summer.
I thought it was great that there's no more confusion when people talk about Brazil nuts.
I can think about it. All these Brazilian porn videos are just going to look like someone clapping their hands now.
Craig, give us one more. I know you got one more in you.
The hookup site Grindr's name has never been more literal.
Bravo. Bravo. I'm not going to lie to you. It's the best roundup we've ever done. All right. It's no longer the roundup. This is the bright side. With Craig and Dave and maybe a little bit of Brad. All right. Can we wrap this thing up?
Yeah,
Do a little
let's wrap it up.
housekeeping? All right. If you wanted to go find us on teespring.com as of this time tomorrow, and actually, come to think of it, by the time this episode airs, it'll be 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But not at all a shot at Craig.
Yeah.
We are going to be moving most likely to TeePublic. I will give a
Nice.
URL. It's going to be a much shorter, much more attainable URL.
Nice.
But all of our designs have already been moved over there. I just got to work out some things with pricing, but it's going to be everything we promised you with Teespring. And just for the record, my T-shirt showed up today.
Oh my God.
It's been weeks.
It's been months.
It's been
almost a
8
month.
Yeah.
It's been 8 to 6 weeks.
Yes. They weren't lying. 8 to 6 weeks.
They
Fuck
arrived
you,
today.
Dave.
Boys, you haven't even seen them yet. They're in the house. I'm going to show them to you after. The quality of the printing from Teespring was so shitty that I actually want to take 8 weeks and send them back.
Wow.
Just absolutely horrendous.
They went downhill because the original ones were good.
The original ones were good. This is not good. There's all sorts of
They were like
spotting.
drug dealers. They're like, hey, check this one out.
First one's free.
Yeah, first one's free.
So yeah, we're off Teespring. Don't buy from there. That site's coming down. TeePublic is doing what I'm gathering is a pretty good job. We've obviously got to order some samples, but the merch site will be back up soon enough. Trying to think what else. On social media, it's at NTS_podcast on all major social media networks. Don't go on LinkedIn. We don't belong there. What else? Boys, you got anything?
No, we
Nothing.
good?
All right, one more time. In the middle, for a guy we love, a guy we miss, and a guy who inadvertently made himself look stupider. Happy birthday, Mike.
Happy birthday, Mike.
Okay, I know they call you Bull, but you didn't have to look like the shit on top of it.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, buddy. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Here's
man.
your new
All right.
balls.
Dave, first time in our garage. Take us out, please.
Needless to say, we said it.